Hi folks, this book is called Forsaken Children. It's my latest novel, a true story about a lady from the west coast of Newfoundland who moved here in the early 1840s and in 1868 worked to try and save some little boys that were abandoned on the ice floes off the coast of Newfoundland near a place called the Highlands, a very beautiful little place. The story takes you from Scotland, Greenock, Scotland, right through to the Highlands. And there are essentially two plots. One that takes into account the life of Catherine McGinnis. The other takes into account the story of the boys' horrific trip across the Atlantic Ocean. I'm going to do a short reading from this book. I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1, Highlands, Newfoundland, June 1st, 1867. John McGinnis hated fishing. It got in the way of his first love, farming. But harvesting the land didn't bring in enough money to feed his family. "Angus, are you dressed yet?" he called out to his eldest son. Impatience creased John's face as he continued to toss splits into the rock or hearth, causing flankers to spray out back onto the wooden kitchen floor. Tiny droplets of water raced down the kitchen window as the rising sun began to burn off the morning dew. "Jesus Christ, boys, we got to get going," he shouted. John found that a little drama was necessary to get his four sons moving. A southwesterly wind straight into the Bay St. George would definitely push up the sea. He wanted to get to the fishing grounds before the swell grew too big for his tiny skiff. He looked up as the boys scuffed their way out from the back of the unfinished house. John would have completed the house long ago if it was just one story. But Catherine wanted a story and a half, and when they immigrated here 15 years ago, he went along with her wishes. Having 4 children and a 30-acre farm made the completion of the house an ongoing project. The McGinnis' peak-roofed house was in the Highlands, a small community located on a level plateau near the low clay cliffs of the southern St. George's Bay on Newfoundland's west coast. Situated north of Butter Brook and fronted by the stony beach, Highlands was backed by a low wooden rise which gave way in the northeast and east to low wooden ridges. Highlands, with its green meadows and rock walls and the Cape Angle Mountains serving as a backdrop, was a lovely spot. Highlands was said to have the most fertile land in Newfoundland, but even though the soil was productive, the people couldn't base their livelihood on agriculture alone. The fishery was still the mainstay of the economy. John and Catherine immigrated to the Highlands in 1852 from Inverness, Nova Scotia. This was their second move. As a young couple, they left their home in Lochmore, Scotland, to make a new life for themselves in the new world. Land grants in Nova Scotia had become scarce, so Newfoundland held out much more promise. They settled in Highlands, which was now populated by 50 Roman Catholic Gaelic Scots. "Let's get moving, boys," John said as he looked at his sons. "The kettle is boiled and there's plenty of tea and bread." "Yes, father," said Angus. The boys were fully dressed, wearing their woolen pants and sweaters. Angus didn't relish going on the water this chilly June morning. Angus was the oldest at the age of 16, and it was from him that most was expected. The other boys were Dougal, who was 14, and twins, Hugh and Rory, aged 11. Dougal slumped back on the box in the kitchen, wasn't eating or drinking like his brothers. He hadn't taken his seat on one of the 2 benches situated close to either side of the chimney settle. "What's wrong with you this morning?" asked John. He was keenly aware of Dougal's antics, one of which was being sick at the most inconvenient time. "My stomach feels funny this morning, father. In what way? Do you have to throw up, my son?" "I think so." Dougal rubbed his stomach as his father glanced at the other boys, and they were smirking. I'll go out and get a piece of salt fish for you. That'll bring you around. John stood up and scratched his closely cropped beard. Dougal and the other three boys knew what was coming. Their grins now turned into giggles. Never mind, Father, Dougal said. I'll eat and feel a little bit better now. I feel a little bit better now. Of course, the boys had remembered that their father, before that, had gotten them to drink a mixture of salt fish and water, and that would make anybody throw up more quickly. John grinned at his sons. I'll need everyone on deck today. There'll not be many days left to get on the water with all the planting ahead. As soon as we'll get back in, I need help with setting the potatoes in the lower field. And I'll also need to move those sheep over to the pasture. The boys groaned. Angus, did you put the new tiller arm on the rudder? Angus, John asked his oldest boy. John had handcrafted, you see, a stronger tiller to fit more snugly over a rudder post on the boat. There was far too much playing the old one. It had worn so much that it could easily snap. The last thing John needed was to be rudderless on the water. Before Angus could answer, John heard his wife Catherine outside and hurried over to open up the back door for her. The distraction proved lucky for Angus. He didn't have to reply now, you see. And truth be told, he had completely forgotten to take care of his father's request. Catherine was struggling with 2 buckets of water, which John took from her and placed on the sideboard in the back house. A strikingly beautiful woman. Even in her unkempt mourning attire, Catherine still lit the fires of John's heart. But as he looked at her, he could see her expression was not right. What's wrong, Leland? He asked softly, using his native Gaelic to call her sweetheart. I'll not be happy with you taking the boys out on the water today, especially this morning. Look at the sky and the sea, John, Catherine replied. It was their practice never to disagree in front of the children, so they continued the discussion out in the back house, away from the boys. Catherine, we'll be fine with all of us rowing. We'll be out and back before you know it. But why take the twins, she protested. They'll just be in your way. Not really, if we get a good run on the fish. We can row back while the boys do the gutting. They'll have some time to learn. Can't you let them just be children for the day, John? They can't be children for long. Before we know it, they'll be men and have to make a living for themselves. Let them stay, John. There's plenty of chores for them to do in the barn. There's seed to be cut, animals to be fed. The barn is a mess of manure. Catherine tried to be convincing. You'll only save minutes by having them come along. Catherine, I know the winds. John realized his wife didn't want to take any risks and tried to reassure her. We've been on this coast for years, and I've never seen a fair southwesterly like this one turn strong before midday. Don't worry, Catherine. We'll be back and have the fish salted before the winds come up. Catherine took off her sweater and hung it on one of the wooden pegs behind her. She said nothing else, but John knew she wasn't pleased. Kissing all the members of the family on the forehead as they left the house was a ritual for Catherine. On this occasion, she kissed each of her boys, but John was only given a cautionary glance. Well, you can only imagine now what's going to happen when they go on the water. You got that rickety old rudder post and that tiller that young Angus still hasn't fixed. So, in order to find out the rest of the story, go to your nearest library and pick up a copy of Forsaken Children, or drop by a bookstore nearest you. I certainly hope you enjoy it.